Welcome back to Boilers and Beyond. I'm Jordan Jones, back here today after Purdue did it again. For the second straight week, the Boilermakers went on the road and won as an underdog, this time taking down Maryland 31-29 in a weird, wild, wacky kind of game that has Purdue on top of the Big Ten West, still in a tie, but in pretty good shape here as the first half of the season has come to an end. Let's get right into it. Look, it wasn't pretty. There was nothing pretty about this game. Purdue seemed to try to give the game away on multiple occasions. Maryland had chances to run with it. They never did. It was ugly for a little while, but Purdue has survived a little road trip here that I thought was going to be really tough before the season. You know, going back to the season preview podcast and making predictions, I didn't think Purdue would get through this back-to-back road stretch at Maryland and Minnesota unscathed. They did. Major credit to Purdue here. This is a big-time win. Maryland's a decent team. By no means are they great. By no means are they East contenders, but they're an improved team from what Mike Locksley took over. Certainly a much improved team from the Maryland team that came to Ross-Ade 3 years ago and got absolutely killed. Purdue hung in there. Purdue survived itself at times and got a massive win. Now, just to start with some takeaways here, this little situation that Purdue likes to put itself in where the offense is stagnant or the offense is not, they're making mistakes and relying on the defense to continue to bail them out over and over again. It's not really Purdue-like when you think about the approach Purdue likes to take, but look, Purdue's done it in 3 of the last 4 games. They did this at Syracuse where the offense was stuck on 9 points forever. They did this last week at Minnesota where they didn't score in the second quarter, third quarter, or really in the first half of the fourth quarter. And then this week again, they go to halftime with 17 points, and they sit on 17 points until late in the game, late in the fourth quarter. So this isn't ideal. I don't know that you can rely on winning a ton of games this way, but major credit to the defense. By no means was it perfect. And the opening drive of the game, Maryland goes down and scores and makes it look really easy. Right before halftime, Purdue's safeties blow an assignment. Corey Trice gets beat deep. Should have had help there, but nonetheless, he didn't tackle well, and Maryland gets in the end zone in a spot where they never should have scored a touchdown. And then on the last drive of the game, after Purdue had bailed the offense out over and over again, the defense needs to get a stop. Up by 8 points. They certainly don't get a stop, but they do stop the 2-point conversion. So Purdue wins this one. The defense as a whole, pretty good. You held Maryland below 400 yards. Pulling up the stats here. I believe they did at least. Holding Maryland 72 yards on the ground on 25 carries, 2.9 per attempt. That's really good. This is a pretty good Maryland rushing attack. Now, they only, they threw the ball a lot more than they ran the ball, 38 throws to 25 runs, but a really nice job of not letting Maryland get much going on the ground. Their long run, I think, came on that 4th down conversion with the big back Littleton, who plowed through. So, a really nice job on the ground on defense. Purdue's done a really good job on the season there. This is becoming a trend. They're very good run defense team. That defensive line, when you look at that run D, a big part of that is the defensive line. And we saw a lot of young guys have some flashes. Nick Carraway got to the quarterback, almost had a sack on Tagovailoa, made him throw a ball basically throw it away. Cole Brevard, the Penn State transfer, redshirt sophomore from Carmel, he got in there, made a nice play. He's going to be a big part of the future. And then Corday Sidnor, a guy who we saw really flash during the spring game. He had a nice day there. He just came out and had 2 sacks against Maryland, both of which were at pretty big times. I think they were both on second downs to put Maryland in third and impossible situations. So, you saw that defensive line look good again. They did a nice job. The defense got Jalen Graham back, and you can't underestimate his importance. He came out, hadn't played in over a month, led Purdue with 9 tackles, had a tackle for loss, broke up a pass. Guy's a stud. Guy is an absolute stud. That was huge for Purdue. Getting him back and keeping him healthy, massive. He is Purdue's best defensive player. I don't know that it's all that close either. Really good to have number 6 back there on defense. He had a nice game. To welcome back, as a whole, a good performance by the defense. Despite the couple of, poor possessions, that's a defense you win with. And that's a defense that kind of won this game for you. The offensive side of the ball was interesting because 31 points wins you most games. But it's the way this game happened and the way this game unfolded. Purdue had a nightmare opening possession where, the first play gets fumbled, a loss of over 10 yards on a failed pitch play to Dylan Downing. But after that, the offense was really sharp for the first half. Now, we're seeing a situation where Purdue is a bad 2-minute team on both sides of the ball. The way that first half ended was brutal. Purdue needs a first down to get into the half. A couple of short runs that didn't really go anywhere by Maccabee, and then Aiden O'Connell throws an incompletion. They punt it back to Maryland, who strikes with a bomb to tie it up. I just don't get it. I guess I do get it. Purdue isn't built to get time off the clock very well. That's just not Purdue's style. But my goodness, Purdue's got to figure something out here to save itself in 2-minute situations, both on offense and defense. Purdue gave up 2 touchdowns, one in the final minute of each half. That's not good. That's not good at all. So, that wasn't great, but it was a good first half for Purdue's offense. And then the third quarter came into play where Purdue turned it over on 3 straight possessions. A fumble by Aiden O'Connell, an interception by Aiden O'Connell, and a fumble by Tyrone Tracy. 3 possessions in a row. Somehow Maryland didn't score. And I tweeted out during the game, this has to be equally as frustrating for Maryland fans, if not more frustrating, as it is for Purdue fans, because they're getting great opportunities and not cashing in. Purdue did the same. They had a couple of really good opportunities and didn't cash in. But, all around, when Purdue's offense had to score, the defense finally cracked, and it's 23-17 after Purdue blocked the extra point. A lot of talk about whether Cam Allen was offsides or not. I don't know that I've seen a great definitive angle, but regardless, that's a huge play. That completely changed this game. O'Connell gets him right downfield. They score, and then Purdue gets the ball back, up by 1. Payne Durham with a big ol' catch and run. Purdue gets in the end zone. So when the offense had to come through, it did. But, man, Purdue could make this a lot easier on themselves if they didn't fall into these long lulls on offense. It's not like it's just a series or two where Purdue isn't scoring. These turn into pretty prolonged, quarter and a half, 2-quarter lulls. That's dangerous. That's really dangerous. I thought Aiden O'Connell looked a lot closer to 100% than he did in the game against Minnesota. Clearly, he's getting healthier. He wasn't perfect. There were a few balls that weren't great. For the second or third time this year, he had a ball that should have been picked off that was dropped and caught by Mershawn Rice. Living dangerously there. And then he did throw an interception where the ball was pretty far behind Charlie Jones. So that wasn't great. But all in all, he did a really nice job, and he had to have a big game. Purdue ran the ball for 13 yards. And I know O'Connell took some sack losses. What did he take? 5 sacks, I believe, was the final count. But, you look at it. 13 carries for 26 for Maccabee, 8 for 13 for Downing. So your running backs combine. Kobe Lewis lost a yard on his carry. So, your running backs combined for 38 yards on 22 carries. Not very good. Not very good at all. So Purdue really had to throw the ball in this one. O'Connell did a great job. It was nice to see Purdue really spread the ball around. You look at the stat sheet, Payne Durham, leading receiver. Very nice game for Durham. Outside of his special teams penalty, those are becoming a bit of a habit now. Not ideal, but he had a nice game. Mershawn Rice had a nice game. It was really good to get him going a little bit. 5 catches for 54 yards. He had a nice little catch on that fade, a beautifully thrown ball by O'Connell, who really throws the fades well. That's a tough skill to be good at, and O'Connell's fantastic there. He was good, though. TJ Sheffield, nice day. Tyrone Tracy had his first explosive play, I think. He had that 30-yard catch. That was great. Good to see that for him. Devin Maccabee is a nice weapon out of the backfield. And Charlie Jones was quiet. That's the thing. Charlie Jones has been the only guy who's been consistent for Purdue this year, but he didn't get much going. Maryland did a nice job of shutting him down and making other guys beat it. You saw how good it can be when someone else can emerge here. So credit to Purdue there, credit to other pass catchers for stepping up and having a big game. I did think it was noteworthy. We talk about injuries a lot here. Abdur-Rahman Yassin was dressed. There were some reports, Carmen and Dean Hart said he went through warm-ups and he was on the sidelines. You saw him on the TV actually a lot. But if he got in the game, I didn't see it. I didn't notice it. Instead, Andrew Sawinski got in there. I thought that was really interesting to see the walk-on hop in. Didn't see a lot of Deion Burks. Didn't see, some of the guys who are behind them on the depth chart. Someone like a Preston Terrell. Someone like the freshman, Steptoe. You didn't see those guys out there, so that was interesting, but nonetheless, nice, diverse performance from the receiving corps. The offensive line, boy, it's getting a little worrisome. Aiden O'Connell certainly is to blame a little bit for those sacks. He held on to the ball pretty long on a few of those, but they're starting to get banged up. Purdue came into the season with 8 offensive linemen they felt good about. Cam Craig didn't last long, and he's done with football due to injuries. And then Daniel Johnson's out, and it sounds like he could be out for a little bit of time. Now you're down to 6 guys you feel good about. You have 2 redshirt freshmen starting in Mohamed Musa and Marcus Bowe. Bowe's been fantastic this year, but, still some youth there. 5 sacks for O'Connell, I believe. That's a few too many. That's a dangerous game to play. We've seen the drop-off without O'Connell. Purdue can't afford to have that happen again. But we'll see how they mesh together a little bit moving forward on that offensive line. And I did want to address that end-of-game situation. I had people talk. I saw people talking, friends of mine, and on Twitter about Purdue and how they handled that when they got to the 2-yard line with a little over 2 minutes left, and you need to get time off the clock, and you want to score, obviously. I thought Purdue handled it as well as you could. It's really dangerous in that spot to let it get to 4th down without scoring. You'd still have had 40 seconds on the clock if you let it go to 4th down. And after seeing what Maryland did on their drive, I don't think you wanted that to happen. I thought Purdue handled it pretty well. They get in the end zone. I thought it was the correct decision to kick the extra point. I understand both arguments. Yes, you go up 9, the game's over. But, again, you saw the benefit of it. You made Maryland get the 2-point conversion, which hits less than half the time. They didn't get it. Now they had an eligible man downfield, pushed him back 5 yards, but they weren't able to get it. So it worked out for Purdue. It was a heck of a sweat. The onside kick was even more of a sweat. That wasn't good at all, but it was recovered. Nonetheless, Purdue survives this one. A really big win. You're halfway through the season at 4-2, and I think that's where I expected Purdue to be. I expected Purdue to be 4-2 or 3-3 at this point in the season. Probably 4-2 would have been my guess. They're there. It hasn't worked out the way anyone thought. I think you have to give this team quite a bit of credit. September was not good, and vibes after September were really bad around this team. Fans were livid. You had Barstool Purdue, dumb account, but tweeting fire Jeff Brom. You had fans being restless on Twitter and message boards. Things weren't good. And the team put everything behind them and went out, got 2 big wins on the road. That's hard to do. Winning on the road in the Big Ten is hard to do. Now you come home. It should be an awesome atmosphere on Saturday for Nebraska. It's a sold-out crowd. The game is at night. I think after these 2 wins, people are going to be pretty fired up for this one. There's a lot to be excited about. You look at the Big Ten West standings, and man, Purdue is right in the thick of things. Nebraska's up there. I know they are. Wisconsin, you can't count them out. Illinois looks good. Boy, what a game that was last night between Illinois and Iowa. It's a wide open West, though. Purdue can win this thing. They really can. Now you have to kind of humble yourself pretty quickly. Nebraska is going to play. They're going to play hard. They're going to be ready to play. And Purdue, as a favorite, hasn't always done a great job. We'll see how that goes, but I think you have to give this team a lot of credit. One thing I wanted to touch on, too, the turnovers are a little frustrating. A couple weeks in a row where Purdue has had multiple turnovers. I think 3 turnovers in each of the last 2 games. Look, when you run an offense that is designed to throw the ball around, to move the ball around, and you're not good at hitting explosive plays, those offenses really are not designed for 10 to 15 play drives. And that's what Purdue kind of asks their offense to do. And when you are in these situations, it makes turnovers more likely. When you throw the ball as much as Purdue does, you're going to have situations like that interception where it's a little behind Charlie Jones. The defender bobbles it a bit, but he picks it off. You throw the ball a lot, that's going to happen. You get receivers in space with the ball who may or may not be the best at carrying it, and Tyrone Tracy fumbles. You drop back a lot with an offensive line that's not great. Strip sacks are going to happen. I mean, this stuff is, to a certain degree, inevitable when you're not creating explosive plays and you're requiring the offense to be out there for a long time and run a lot of plays. I know you certainly want to improve it, And I think Purdue can, and I think Purdue certainly will, but that's an area where, to some degree, I don't think this team's going to become a good explosive play team. So you just have to try to limit the erroneous throws, the fumbles. I mean, ball security is going to be incredibly important. This is a Big Ten West that is physical. It is ugly at times. But when you make plays like that, it doesn't help you. Man, I can't say enough about how big of a win that is. That is fantastic that Purdue won that game. Tagovailoa is a pretty good quarterback to go up against. I thought Purdue, for the most part, did a nice job on some really good receivers. Raheem Jarrett really worried me. 4 receptions for 28 yards. Corey Dyches is good. He's a good player. He's a good tight end. But, Jacob Copeland, not a crazy game. Really. Jayshon Jones did nothing. No catches. So, a great game for Purdue. You can't say enough good things about the last couple of weeks. You're halfway through. The season is flying by. We're already halfway through. And Purdue's at 4-2. And you look the rest of the way. I think they'll be an underdog against Wisconsin. You might be an underdog at Illinois. But there are a lot of games out there that Purdue should win. Now, will they? Won't they? Time will tell. But there are a lot of games out there that Purdue should win, and that starts on Saturday with Nebraska. We will have a full Nebraska preview here on the podcast feed this week, so be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts so that you don't miss it. And if you're not on Twitter, if you're not following the show there, be sure to follow @BoilersBeyond. Every week during the midweek show, we'll do some Q&A. Tweet me over some questions, anything Purdue football related, and I will get them answered. Always a fun episode. First half will be Nebraska preview. Second half will be Q&A and whatever topics we need to discuss. So that'll be fun. A lot to be excited about. This is a good time for Purdue football. This is a season that could be really fun if Purdue can continue to find ways to win games. I am looking forward to talking about Nebraska on Wednesday with you all. But until then, tweet me some questions and have a great start to your week, everybody.